Hey guys, this is Will at Third and Long. Welcome to my Week 10 Saturday Best Bets. We will be looking at the Moneyline spreads and the over and under for the 2023 college football season for Week 10. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get started here because we have a couple scores that changed from our prediction videos. But coming in at 12 p.m. on CBS, we have number 1 Ohio State at 8-0 versus Rutgers at 6-2. Both of these teams have top 10 defenses. The Buckeyes are 18.5-point favorites. The over-under is 42.5. So with the Buckeyes, they don't have the offense, but they definitely have the defense. They have a top 5 defense. Kyle McCord is just getting the ball to the playmakers, but he's supposedly banged up. He's not really good when he's healthy, so I don't know how he'll be when he's banged up, but nonetheless, they should be able to dominate this game, running and passing through the air. So look at the Buckeyes to be getting the win here. So I have Ohio State getting to the win 34-13. They will cover. I'm going with the over as well. The Buckeyes just have way too much talent. Even though the Rutgers has a very good defense, they should in no way to be able to keep up and compete with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Next game we have coming up at 12 p.m. on Fox. We have number 23 Kansas State at 6-2 versus number 7 Texas Longhorns at 7-1. Texas 4-point favorites here, over under 49.5. So Kansas State, they are obviously the defending Big 12 champs. They've had a very strong second half to their season since that loss to Missouri on that 65-yard field goal. Texas, Quinn Ewers is out again this weekend. How will they respond? Malik Murphy did start last weekend. He had a pretty sloppy first half, but they really picked up second half, won the game. So Texas is in a bit of a tough situation here. They cannot afford to lose another game. They must run the table. They must beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship in order to get to the playoffs. But they're without Quinn Ewers. That is a massive loss versus a very physical Kansas State team. But they do have Brooks running the ball. To me, that's what should carry this game. That's what should make the difference, just like it did last weekend. Keep the ball on the ground. Rely on your defense. I have Texas getting the win 30-23. So I'm going with them covering. I'm going with the over. But I would not be surprised if Kansas State wins this one, only because Texas doesn't have their starting quarterback. So we're kind of going into this game blind, and we really don't know how they will play with their backup versus a very talented Kansas State team. But just like last weekend, I think they will win this one. Coming in at 12 p.m. on ESPN, we have the Texas A&M Aggies at 5-3 versus Ole Miss at 7-1, who's ranked number 10. Ole Miss 3-point favorites here, so they have it as a very close game, over under 53.5 points. So the Aggies, they have matched their win total from last year. They have to win another one to get a bowl game. There is a lot of pressure on Jimbo Fisher right now, especially since the SEC will be getting tougher next year when they add Texas and the Sooners. So he must win some of these games versus these rivals here. They do have a top 15 defense. They have a very talented, very physical defense, but Ole Miss has been cruising recently since they lost to Bama. They have Jackson Dart, they have Quinton Junkins, they have Watkins, they have the playmakers, and they have the way better offense. So I have the Ole Miss Rebels winning 24-20. So it'll be a very close, low-scoring game due to the defense, but I have them covering. I'm going with the under here, and I have Ole Miss winning. Next game we have at 12 p.m. on ABC, another matchup of top 15 defenses. We have number 15 Notre Dame at 7-2 versus number 4 Clemson at 4-4. Just like Jimbo, Dabo is under a lot of pressure here. He can't go to 4-5. He would definitely be feeling the heat and be getting trashed in the media. But the Irish are 3-point favorites. The over-under is 44.5 points. Notre Dame has a top 15 defense. They have Sam Hartman. He has played at Clemson before, so this would be no surprise to him. He is very familiar with the Clemson Tigers. He has Estime, one of the best running backs in the country, so they will be looking to keep the ball on the ground and try to play really good defense versus Clemson, which their offense has been struggling with Klubnik, and Shipley does fumble the ball a lot. So look for Notre Dame to get the win here, but they're not going to blow out Clemson because Clemson has a very good defense, and Notre Dame's offense is not elite. They are good, they are serviceable, but they're not going to blow out the Clemson Tigers. But look for Notre Dame to win 28-20. So I'm going with the over, and I think that they will cover that spread. Coming in at 12 p.m. on the SEC Network, we have Yukon at 1-7 versus number 17 Tennessee Volunteers at 6-2. Tennessee 35.5-point favorites. That's a pretty big spread there. The over/under is 55.5. So Yukon, there's not much to say there. They're not good at defense. They're not good at offense. They do have some running backs that can get first down, so they will try to keep the game on the ground, try to keep the ball out of Tennessee's offense's hands, and just basically try to run the clock. So I think that's what's going to keep this game from being like a 60-10 game, is just them controlling the clock. But Tennessee, Joe Milton, not having the best year, but this is a run-heavy team, and they have been doing that very well. They are far more talented than Yukon, so look for them to blow out Yukon. I have Tennessee winning 42-10, so I'm just barely going with the under, and I don't think that they will cover that spread. But could they conceivably win like a 50-10? Yeah, that is possible. Next game at 2 p.m. on the Pac-12 Network, we have Arizona State at 2-6 versus number 18 Utah, who is 6-2. Utah is 11-point favorites. The over/under here is 41.5 points. So Arizona State did play Washington very close. Do not look for that to happen in this game. They are not a bad team, but they will not be able to match the physicality of the Utes. The Utes are coming off of a loss this past weekend, so look for them to be looking to get the rebound here and to get really physical. Kyle Whittingham will get this team back on track. Utah does not have a good offense at all, but you don't need one to beat the Sun Devils. They have a great defense, a very physical defense, and they play good special teams. So I have Utah winning here 31-17. So I'm going with the over, and I think that they'll cover. Next game we have at 2:30 p.m. on CBS. We have 2-6 Army at number 25 Air Force, who is 8-0, undefeated. Air Force 18.5-point favorites, over under 31.5. So this is one of those games where both teams play the triple option, so they will both be looking to drain the clock and keep the ball out of the other team's hands. But Air Force does have a pretty decent defense. They do have a top 25 defense, and they will be controlling the clock a lot better than Army can. So I have Air Force getting the win here. They're going to win 27-13. So I'm going with the over, but I don't think that they'll cover the 18.5-point spread. But they very well could, but I just think both teams are way too similar, and this will not be a high-scoring game. Next game at 3:30 CBS, we have 12 Missouri at 7-1 versus number 2 Georgia at 8-0. Georgia comes into this game as 15-point favorites, the over-under 55.5. So they have a pretty high-scoring game here, but they have Georgia controlling the game. Now, this is one of those games where it could be very close first half. Georgia could potentially be down after the first half, but I think their physicality is what will cover the game second half. They do not have Brock Bowers, but Carson Beck has shown that he can light it up without Brock Bowers. So I have Georgia getting the win here, but I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I have Georgia winning 35-24. Missouri might get like a fourth quarter garbage time touchdown. So 35-24. So I'm going with the over, but I do not think that they will cover. So this will be a lot closer to me than the Florida game was last weekend. Next game at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 4 Florida State at 8-0 versus Pittsburgh at 2-6. So Pittsburgh does have that win versus Louisville, and that's about it. They've pretty much done absolutely nothing else. They've stunk on both sides of the ball. Florida State, 21.5-point favorite. So massive spread there. Over under 49.5 points. So Florida State of late, the last few weeks, has looked like a very complete team. They've been playing good on both sides of the ball. The talent level here are not similar in any way whatsoever. Florida State should definitely win this game. They have Travis, they have Benson, they have Coleman. So I have Florida State getting the win here, 38-17. I hate the 21.5-point spread because it's the half point. That's the kicker here. So I have them going over, but not covering that spread, just barely. The next game we have at 3:30 p.m. on the ABC network is a really good one. Number 9, Oklahoma at 7-1 versus Oklahoma State, who's number 22, and they are 6-2. Oklahoma 6-point favorites here, over under 60.5. This is a tough game because this game is completely 50-50. I would in no way be surprised if the Sooners lose here. So they are coming off of that loss versus Kansas. They played really sloppy. They did not look good at all. Defense has shown some holes. They still have no rushing attack at all. Their leading rusher has 360 yards. That is pathetic at week 10. But they do have Dylan Gabriel. He can make a big difference. But Oklahoma State with Gordon II. He's one of the best running backs in the country. This guy is averaging like 220 yards rushing per game since he started playing this year. So they will definitely be looking to keep the ball on the ground, keep the ball out of Dylan Gabriel's hands. Oklahoma State should not be underestimated. Since they started the year, they have been one of the hottest teams the last 4 to 5 weeks. So I have Oklahoma getting the win here. I am just going to rely on their defensive talent they have on paper to get a last-minute stop. If the game comes down to the fourth quarter, just like the Texas game, I have Dylan Gabriel going down the field, scoring a touchdown to win it and to clinch this game. I have Oklahoma winning 31-27. So I'm going with the under here just barely and them not covering that spread. But this could be a game that's like a 40-38 game too. So it can definitely be a shootout, but I have Oklahoma winning. Next game is at 3:30 on Fox. Number 11 Penn State at 7-1 versus Maryland at 5-3. Penn State 8.5-point favorites, over under 50.5. So Penn State coming off of that really sloppy win versus the Indiana Hoosiers. That was a complete disaster. They did get the win, but they did not look good on either side of the ball. The offense looked like garbage. Defense showing some holes, but they still have a top 10 defense led by Manny Diaz. They still have a efficient offense, but they have no vertical playmakers. That's the biggest holdback for their offense. But Maryland, every year they start out the year undefeated, 4-0, 5-0, and then they just train wreck the whole second half. That's kind of what's happened here. So they're on a 3-game losing streak, but they do have a very decent offense. Look for them to make the game somewhat competitive, first, second quarter. But I have Penn State ultimately getting the win, 35-17. So I have them covering, and I'm going with the over as well. Next game at 3:30 on the ACC network, we have 4-4 Virginia Tech versus number 13 Louisville at 7-1. Louisville is 9.5-point favorite, so that's been moving throughout the week there, and the over/under 48.5. So Virginia Tech, they have a pretty decent running game. Louisville has a top 25 defense, top 25 offense, so they are very balanced. They do have that win versus Notre Dame, so they have a very good win this year. They do have that one loss versus Pitt, so it's shown they can lay an egg at some point. But their offense should make the difference here. They have Plummer, they have Jordan, they have Thrash, so they are loaded on offense. I have Louisville getting the win here, 30-20, so I'm going with the over, and I also have them covering. The next game we have at 3:30 on ESPNU, number 24, Tulane at 7-1. Their only loss to Ole Miss, and they didn't have Pratt that game, versus East Carolina at 1-7. Tulane, 17-point favorites, and the over-under 47.5. So Tulane has Pratt, they have Hughes, they have Keys the third. Hughes and Pratt is what should make the difference. They can throw the ball, they can get first downs, and they should be able to run the ball on East Carolina. Although they have an okay rush defense, it's not going to slow down Hughes. So I have Tulane getting the win here, 31-17. So I have them not covering, and I'm going with the over. Next game we have at 5:30 p.m. on the Pac-12 Network, 3-5 Cal at number 6, 7-1 Oregon. Oregon 24.5-point favorites, over under 59.5. So Cal has shown last week when they just barely lost to the Trojans that they can definitely get in a shootout and that their offense can score some points. So they can do it. But the Ducks, to me, the best one-loss team in the country of every single team in the country, this is the one team that I would not want to play right now. To me, they are the hottest team in college football at week 10 on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. A top 5 offense, a top 20 defense. So this team is very well-rounded. Bo Nix has 1 pick this year. He is definitely in the Heisman consideration, and I think they only have 1 fumble the whole year. So this team is good. Look for them to beat up Cal. I have Oregon cruising to an easy win, 45-20. I think they will cover, and I'm going with the over. The next game we have at 7 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 21 Kansas at 6-2 versus Iowa State at 5-3. So Iowa State is the favorite here by 2.5, over under 53.5. Kansas is coming off of that win versus Oklahoma. This is a very talented team. They have been without their starting quarterback, but they have been running the ball down other teams' throats. Iowa State, very sloppy, slow start to the year, but since then, their last 5 games, they have been very hot, led by a top 20 defense. So it's Kansas's running game versus the Iowa State D-line. I would in no way be surprised if Iowa State wins the game. They are the favorites. Matt Campbell has a very well-coached team, but I'm actually going to go with Kansas, the ranked team, getting the upset here and winning the game 27-24, and I'm going with the over. At 7:30 p.m. on NBC, we have 2-6 Purdue, the worst defense in the Big Ten, versus number 3 Michigan at 8-0. Michigan, 32.5-point favorites. Over/under is 50.5. So Michigan has the number 1 defense in every single category so far this year. They have all of the off-the-field stuff with the cheating. That will not matter. That will not carry on to the field. This game is not close. They are far more talented. In a lot of people's eyes, they should be the number 1 team in college football. They have J.J. McCarthy. They have Blake Corum. They have Donovan Edwards. They have Wilson. And they have Harbaugh at the helm. So look for Michigan to get the easy win. They have Penn State coming up. So I think they'll be thinking about Penn State, but they're still going to beat the crap out of Purdue. But I have Michigan winning 45-13. So they won't cover, but I'm going with the over. Next game at 7:30 on ABC. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. Probably the best game of the weekend scoring-wise. We have number 5 Washington at 8-0 versus number 20 USC Trojans, who are 7-2. Washington 3-point favorites. Over/under 76.5. They have this game being a shootout, and it definitely will be because USC's defense is a complete joke. They can't stop anyone. It's a complete disaster. Washington's defense is not good, but it's better than the Trojans. But they both have really good offenses. Both have top 5 offenses, with Washington having the number 1 pass offense at 399.5 yards per game. Penix versus Wilson, it doesn't get any better than that. This game could go either way. A lot of people have the Trojans rebounding here, getting the win. I would not be surprised. Do not underestimate the talent of the Trojans. They do have Lincoln Riley, and they have the reigning Heisman champ Caleb Williams. But I'm actually going with Washington getting the win here, holding on 41-35. I think they'll cover that spread. And it really stinks because I'm coming in at 76 points, which is just, I thought that was really high, but it's not high enough to get the over. So I'm going under there. But I would not be surprised if this game is just like the USC game from last week and it's 50-49. It could go either way. The next matchup we have on ESPN2 at 3:30 p.m. we have undefeated James Madison at 8-0 versus Georgia State at 6-2. Do not underestimate Georgia State here. They do have a very good rushing team. Carroll has 1,100 yards rushing, 12 touchdowns. So this team can definitely move the ball on the ground. This is going to be a very tough game, very close game. James Madison is favored by 5.5. Over/under is 54.5 on the game right here. I have James Madison staying undefeated, winning 30-27, so they won't cover, but I'm going with the over. James Madison will continue to stay undefeated. The next game we have, one of the best games of the weekend, the game of the weekend at 7:45 on CBS, number 14 LSU at 6-2 versus number 8 Alabama at 7-1. Bama, 3-point favorites, over/under is 61.5. So they have it being a pretty high-scoring game. This game last year was low-scoring, but it was a really fun game, one of the best games of the season last year. But this time, it's in Tuscaloosa, so I definitely see why Bama is the favorite for LSU. They lost to Florida State, but since their loss to Ole Miss, they have been hot. Their defense has stunk the whole year. But the last 3 weeks, it has actually played pretty well. The offense has been really good. Jaden Daniels is having a Heisman-level year. He's probably the favorite to win the Heisman right now. 2,600 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 3 picks, and he can run the ball. LSU has the way better offense. It's not close. They have Diggs at running back. They have Neighbors at wide receiver. They will move the ball. Bama, their offense, I think it averages like 350 yards per game. Not good at all. So what will Milroe do? Will he be scrambling? Will he be trying to go vertical passes? Will he have time to throw the ball downfield? Bama's not really good at passing. They're not really good at rushing, but they are efficient on offense. I'm going to go with LSU to get the win again, winning 28-24. I think that the score will be under, but I think that obviously that spread will not be covered. But I just think Jane Daniels is the one who will make the difference. Just like last year, it's his ability to scramble for first downs that's going to carry the game. But either way, this will be a really fun game to watch. If the Tigers win, Bama will not make the playoffs, and LSU is now in control of the SEC West to potentially play Georgia. So coming in next at 10 p.m. on ESPN, number 16 Oregon State at 6-2 versus Colorado at 4-4. So Oregon State 13.5 point favorites. Over under is 62.5 here. Oregon State, very balanced team. They can run, they can throw the ball with DJU. Colorado is completely not balanced at all. They can throw the ball on anyone. But gosh, their running game is atrocious, and they have no defense. They've been kind of sliding back here because people are teeing off on Shedeur Sanders. His line is complete trash. He has zero time to throw the ball. They will still get some points. They definitely always get garbage time points every time that they lose. I have Oregon State holding on and getting the win 30-28. So I'm going with the under here, and I do not think that they will cover that spread. Just because Oregon State doesn't have a good defense, but it's can they get to Shedeur Sanders so much to where they can't make the game competitive? I have them winning 30-28. Final game of the night at 10:30 p.m. on Fox Sports, number 19 UCLA at 6-2 versus Arizona at 5-3. UCLA is 3-point favorites, over under 51.5. So UCLA, they've been going back and forth on quarterbacks. Really doesn't change the game because they rely on their defense to win games. They have a very good defense, a very tough defensive line. Arizona, this is a team that barely lost to USC, barely lost to Washington. Very good team, very under the radar. So props to Jed Fish there. This is a very good team. I would not be surprised if they win. They play everybody close. They play everyone tough. But I have the Bruins holding on and winning 34-20. I am going with the over, and I think that they will cover. Could Arizona win this game? Yes, I would not be surprised, but I think it's the defense of the Bruins that will make the difference. So that's my breakdown of the Week 10 Saturday best bets. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.